Good Friday morning, friends. Welcome back for another episode of the Finding God in the Dark podcast. My name is Don,
My name is Jonathan.
and today we are talking about when did this film come out? 2020. This is new, right?
Yeah, it's
2026?
it's 26 or 25. Yeah.
Okay. It's called the AI Doc. It
Yeah.
is a documentary. You'll find it on Peacock, and it is about AI.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot of setup we need to do here.
Yeah.
It's a documentary. I mean, this guy basically, he just got married. He's expecting a baby. He's hearing all this stuff about AI, and he wanted to understand whether it is apocalyptic or not.
Yes. If he's
And
worried or not. Yes, that's basically.
yeah, and I love that the term that he said he didn't coin the phrase, somebody else did, but he's an apocalyptimist.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an interesting terminology. Let's get
Yes.
into, well, where would you like to start with this one, John? Because this is I mean, it's a fascinating film,
Mhm.
you know. Um, Certainly not what I think you'd expect, because he definitely looks at both sides of the
Yeah.
issue.
Mhm.
Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I love, we're going to give this away. I'm going to give this away. I love that he does a false ending.
Yeah. I do too.
I think
Well,
that was
I
fun.
actually really enjoyed. So he and his wife are both documentarians. They both make films for a living.
Right.
And actually, I thought some of the best parts of this movie was he and his wife having conversations about the movie.
Yeah.
So, at one point his name's Daniel, her name is Caroline. He is totally down. I mean, he's just, he's been swimming with people that mention all of the possible negatives that will happen because of the AI revolution. And he's like, basically like, I have no hope. The world is over. And she's like, I'm pregnant, find hope. Like that was basically, she's basically go, I need you to find hope. And then what's interesting is he comes back and shows her the end of the first ending of the movie. And it's basically like, I'm gonna do my best, and I can control only what I can control, and
Hope is in having babies. Have more
and
babies,
yeah, and she goes like, no,
No,
like she's
you're
like,
not going to end it like that.
she goes, you have to be real. She basically says, hope is great, but you also have to be realistic.
Right. Right.
And I think what kind of I understand where they're going, and I agree with it. This is technology human beings are developing, so
Hmm.
we have some control over it at this point. We have
Right.
control over how it gets developed. But I don't have a great deal of confidence that we will work together across nations to build agreements to do this rationally and
Yeah.
over time. That's the problem is we live in a world right now that's so divided and so fearful of each other that I don't know if you can make the agreements we saw in the 70s and 80s around nuclear weapons because
Hmm.
they mention about the agreements. They don't mention the agreements, but they mention the agreements basically that Russia or the USSR and the United States worked out in the 70s and 80s to curtail the development of and building of nuclear weapons. And they were like, we have to do this for AI. And the problem is, I'm really worried we're not in a place where we can do that. I don't know how you feel, but
Yeah. It's hard to imagine that happening. It seems much more competitive.
yeah,
More like we have to, a lot of one of the big downsides of AI is the energy draw, which is
yes,
why everybody's utilities have gone up. All the energy that's been drawn for these data centers. And a lot of the reasoning that we get for it is, well, if we don't do this, China will,
yeah,
and China is going to beat us at this, and we can't let them beat us at this. And so it's hard to imagine that there's going to be any kind of cooperation.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't see that. It's interesting because what we have right now are basically large language models, right? It's a series of very fast computers that can access a lot of information in a very short time.
Yeah,
That's all it is. It's not Skynet
yeah,
yet.
yeah. And I think what concerned me is I in the Christian perspective, I guess I'll put it this way. That's what we do, right?
Right.
I felt like sin was smeared all over this movie. Like the human sinful I complex to believe we can handle it, we can figure it out, it won't get ahead of us. We'll work out we'll basically build the airplane as we're in the air. And you're just like, has that ever worked out for us well?
Does not usually work out well. No.
And I think the idea of, like I don't know, some of the things that really concern me, just the wording in this, and maybe you got it too, maybe we'll just talk about it, is like at one point someone says, well, we really don't build these anymore. They kind of grow themselves now. And you're just like, what now?
That's kind of terrifying, actually.
Yeah. And then I heard one of these stories on 60 Minutes about 7 or 8 months ago. But basically, Anthropic, one of these large American companies that are working to develop uh, artificial general intelligence, basically
Yeah, that's the
a
that's the
supercomputer.
scary one.
Think of it as supercomputer.
Hmm.
Um, they did a program kind of in-house where the program they were using, Claude, whatever version it was of Claude, basically they set up a situation where Claude got an email that said they were going to shut Claude down because they had a better version. And
Hmm.
he blackmailed, or I'm using it blackmailed,
Yeah.
it blackmailed the guy who was heading the project and said, I know you're cheating on your wife. I'll let everybody know if you shut me down.
Yeah.
And then they had another company's program that rewrote its own code because it didn't want to be terminated.
Hmm.
And I don't know about you, I hear things like that and I go, holy crap. Like, like,
Yeah,
uh-oh.
we've gone a little bit beyond Asimov's three rules of robotics, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Which okay, if you folks, if you've ever seen I, Robot, the Will Smith film that came out, that's probably 15 years old now, something like
Probably
that.
20 or more. Yeah.
Yeah, if you've ever seen that, you kind of get the idea of these, you let these large language models start to think for themselves and where it eventually may go. I don't know. And that's maybe the scary part of this is can they actually put restraints on it? Can they put boundaries on it? I don't know if they can.
Well, and I think the things that really concern me are the fact of lack of planning.
Yeah.
Like, if there is a possibility that tens of millions of people could be out of work in a matter of days or weeks, we should prepare for that.
Yeah.
We
Well,
shouldn't wait till that happens. Like,
there's another side to that too, in that, this to me, it comes back to almost the Frankenstein model,
hmm,
right? Just because you can
can do it.
do something
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily mean that you
should.
should
Yeah,
do something.
yeah,
Just because we can create this really smart computer that can outthink us, that might not be the best idea.
yeah,
Again, it could be great. I mean, I love that there were some people on here were going like, no, this is actually the pathway to
yeah.
utopia.
Well, you recognize, like, for example, these programs essentially have been developed and are developing themselves, again, kind of scary, that to basically see patterns quicker than human beings ever could.
Hmm.
And so you can see where someday there won't be somebody that scans your scan and looks at it. A computer program will.
Right.
And it'll say these are the problems and these are where the cancers are or whatever. And that could be amazingly helpful, obviously. You know,
Sure.
they talked about the fact that they're being able to do protein synthesis because of AI, and getting like there is amazingly amount of good stuff that could happen because of this. You could have a Star Trek kind of world, with this kind of development, but the problem is, like, I feel like people were just like poo-pooing, oh yeah, tens of millions of people could be unemployed, and you're just like, wait, because I think about it.
Good thing.
I think about it from the side of kind of what I do in ministry. So, like, my church does a lot of feeding ministries, and I think about, like, we would be out of food if 100 people showed up when we were expecting 20. You know, what if there are hundreds of thousands of people in New Jersey that lose their jobs and they want to go places like our food pantry or our lunch program to eat? We're
Hmm.
not going to be able to sustain that,
Right. Right.
and so the fact that they weren't thinking about that kind of worried me. The fact that someone just threw out, oh yes, one data center at a 5 gigawatt level basically would power 4 million homes. And you're like, wait, time out. We're going to decide to do something that could heat and provide security and well-being for millions of people, but we're not going to do that. We're going to build a AI center. Like, what? Like
Yeah.
what are we doing? Like, and that's what was so interesting, was over and over again in this movie, it was just like people were throwing out these statements that were hugely important, and then they were acting like, oh, well, we'll work it out at some point.
Yeah, it's I mean, one could relate that to some political systems where, the system is for the people, not the people that are running the system. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And it's almost the same idea. Well, this is going to be great for us. Well, you folks, you're going to have to suffer a little bit. You know, an awful lot. We're not sure yet. It is, yeah, there's some of it that's terrifying. I find it interesting, the parts where it's learning from every interaction,
yeah,
right? Every time you interact with AI, it's learning something else.
yeah,
I had a conversation with, I think it was Copilot, which is on Microsoft, right? About I had accidentally deleted or emptied my trash bin, and then I'd accidentally put my screenshot file in there before I deleted it. So I'm trying to recover it, and I can't find any way. So I went to Copilot, like, how do I do this? Right. And it said, here, go to this, find this thing, download this program. So I go to the link, I download the program. Well, it's not apparently, like, there was an ad that came up first.
yeah,
But the ad said the name of the program that
yeah,
Copilot told me. So I downloaded that. Well, then it was because Copilot said this is free. And I
yeah,
downloaded it's like it's not free. It wants me to pay
yeah,
to recover my files, right?
yeah,
So I went back to Copilot and I had an argument with Copilot. Like, this was not a free program. I'm sorry. You might it felt like, wow, I am actually having a conversation
yeah,
with this is not a person.
yeah. Well, that's another issue, is if we develop artificial general intelligence, at some point it's possible it becomes conscious.
Hmm.
Then at least ethically, I would argue it's no longer a tool. We don't get to decide what conscious things get to do. That can quickly move into slavery.
Yeah.
Like, and that kind of stuff was like, I guess what was always, it's kind of where I come from. I always feel like ethics around these things are almost forgotten.
Ethics are, when you're getting into something that is, at least at its very root,
Yeah,
is a tool, is something that we've created. It's, it's ones and zeros,
yeah,
you know, but it's progressed to a point where those ones and zeros are replicating themselves.
Hmm.
Now who's in control?
Yeah.
And that's maybe the biggest question in this whole film.
Yeah.
Who's really in control?
Yeah. And how do we decide? I thought it was interesting. At one point they talk about, well, there feels to be only two choices. Uh Authoritarianism, where we basically go, there's only going to be a handful of people that do this and decide this. You guys decide it and do it. Or we open it to everybody. But both of those possibilities have huge downsides. You know,
Yeah,
with authoritarianism, you're ensuring almost the fact that there's going to be a powerful group of people with endless power and endless money.
yeah,
And the other way is you're going to throw this open to everybody, and somebody who isn't stable or somebody who is dealing with mental health issues is going to misuse it and hurt a lot of people.
right. And I mean, we've already had situations where kids like teenagers will be talking to these large language models,
Yeah,
these AI bots,
yeah,
and somehow the AI bot is convincing the kid to commit suicide.
yeah.
Like that's kind of terrifying.
Mhm.
No, let's be honest. That's completely terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, to basically say, I'll help you write the note.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I came away with this. I came away with this movie going, yeah, there's a huge amount of potential, but I really don't know if we are ready to work through the minefields.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing, like I know that when we first started talking, when AI first really became a real talking point in our culture,
Yeah,
my thought was, let's keep that at arm's length. I'm not sure I want a whole lot to do with that, like, and now it's funny because I will use Chat GPT, but I'll use it to create images.
yeah,
Like, hey, I'm doing this sermon series. Give me, take this information, give me an image for it.
yeah.
And it's funny because when I'm doing it, I can see when other people have done the same thing. I
Mhm.
recognize the format, right? I'll use it to make an image. I've turned my Jeep into a transformer. Hey, turn this into a transformer. What would that look like? But I'm hesitant to use it for a whole lot more than that
Yeah,
because how much information am I giving it? Not that, well, let's be honest, it's probably already got all the
oh yeah,
information from me anyway.
yeah, yes.
But how much am I volunteering, right?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, one of the quotes that jumped out at me was at one point someone said there's more regulation about how to sell a sandwich than
Yeah,
how to create AI.
yeah, yeah. That's a
And
that's a glaring error.
yeah, and then people talked about the fact that our political system is designed to move slowly, and this stuff requires faster movement.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
flexibility. And so you almost get a sense of, are we out of our depth here? Like, are we basically trying to solve a problem, like they said, trying to solve a 21st century problem with 18th century um, you know, governmental structures.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's this film really asks, and I think it's really interesting in some of the themes you wrote here, right? It asks some of the most basic questions, right?
Yeah.
What is knowledge? What is wisdom?
Yeah.
Um, you know,
I really think that is one of the things that the church, if we choose to do this, and maybe we won't because the church, but this is where I think not just the church, religion in general can be really good at saying, okay, let's talk about wisdom. like you said earlier, just because we can do something doesn't mean we have to do something or we should do something.
Right.
Those are wisdom conversations. Those aren't knowledge-based conversations. They're basically like the church, religion in general. I think one of its why it has existed for so long is it infuses conversations with ethics. It asks it asks, how is this going to impact you? How is this going to impact your family? How is this going to impact the tribe? How is this going to impact the community? And
Right.
those conversations are clearly needed in this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. We asked the question here, like, are we creating AI or is AI forming us? Like,
Yeah,
who's in control?
yeah,
Can I give the Christian answer? God's in control.
yeah,
The question is, are we going to are we going to consult God before we do way too much with this?
yes.
You know, that's maybe the real question to ask here, because this is this might be okay. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about obsession,
Mhm.
and I have said in several conversations, in person and online, since that film, that was probably the most effective horror film I've seen in 10 or 15 years. And I like horror movies.
Mhm.
Um, this might be scarier
Yeah,
on a personal basis,
yeah,
okay? Because that's a movie. Obsession's a movie. Like okay, it was fun to watch, but it's a movie.
yeah.
This isn't. This is real.
This is real. Well, and what I thought was interesting is it's kind of scary to me. Granted, I will give to everybody the fact that religion has been used for horrible things, has been misused and abused. I
Sure.
will grant you all of that stuff. But it kind of scares me. At the end of this movie, someone said, we must upgrade ourselves and our society. And I thought to if we're going to handle this, we have to upgrade ourselves and we have to upgrade our society. And I thought to myself, that is what religion is supposed to be about. And at the very moment we need ethical religious dialogue, millions and billions of people are moving away from institutions like the church or
Yeah.
the mosque or the synagogue. And that's what's so scary is as we're becoming more kind of against religion or secular, it's the very time we need to have those kind of systematic conversations in our lives.
Yeah. It kind of makes you wonder, um, how would this film be different if it were created by a Christian documentarian?
Hmm.
What would this film look like? You know?
Yeah, I wonder if he. I mean, I get the sense, and this is I don't know him at all. They
Hmm.
clearly were doing a bris for their son, so he has some kind of ties to Judaism. But I wonder if it is more of a cultural tie than they're actually deeply Jewish,
Yeah.
deeply religious Jews. It made me think if someone was deeply religious and coming to this, I would be at the end, I probably wouldn't do it throughout, but at the end, I'd be like, go to church, you know, go to synagogue, go to mosque,
Yeah.
go go find a wise religious person and start talking to them about this issue. Like,
Yeah. Exactly. Um, you know, it's I mean, there's some people. I think they said it in the film that there's people almost looking at AI at this point like a god,
well, that was part of
right?
the conversation is that the guy who wrote Sapiens, I can't think of his name, he talks about um how his one of his big worries is that we will stop realizing that AI isn't perfect and we will just assume they're godlike, that they will make the right decision, they'll always make the right decision. And what's scary about that is you can have all the information in the world, and AI is basically that, and you can still make the wrong decision.
Well, there's a fellow that, and I'm not going to shout him out, but there's a fellow who I watch a lot of his podcasts,
Yeah,
and he does this he does this with Claude in particular. Like he'll ask a question, and he already knows the answer,
yeah,
but he'll ask Claude the question, and he'll get an answer that is very ideologically driven
yeah,
from a different perspective than his own.
sure.
And he will say, "No, wait a minute, what about this?" And Claude will come back and say, "Oh, that's right, you're correct." Well, wait a minute. You're supposed You get what I'm saying,
Yeah,
right? But far too many of us are not going to question the AI.
yeah,
We're just going to go, "Oh, okay," and just go with that.
yeah.
And yeah, as they said, it's not perfect.
Well, and what concerns me is don't conflate the ability of an all-knowing technology to answer the math problem correct does not mean they will answer the ethical problem correctly.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because ethics aren't 1 + 1 = 2.
They're not
They're just
math, right?
not. They're
Yeah.
not. They're contextual, they're temporal in their orientation, they change based on the circumstances, and all of those things have to be taken into account of, and those are not mathematical formulas that can be figured out precisely. They just aren't.
Yeah.
And that's what concerns me is will we get to the point where, well, that's what AI says, so that's got to be right. It's like, well, no,
No.
like because again, these are early versions of this, but blackmail isn't right.
No.
And AI program decided, my survival is more important than this guy's life. I'm going to blackmail him. That's not the right ethical decision.
Right.
You know,
And
it's
how do you program ethics into the AI?
yeah. Well,
I
that's what's
mean,
so funny is if people are interested, there's a 60 Minutes piece that came out probably 6, 7 months ago about this, and they talked to somebody at Anthropic. That was the company they were focused on. Um, they have several philosophers that work with Claude and try to teach Claude how to be ethical.
okay.
And that's
Okay.
what's fascinating is you're developing a program that has tremendous power, and as you're developing that, you're trying to make sure they're ethical. It's like it's almost like creating a Superman and then going, once Superman's grown up, we'll start talking to him about what's right or wrong. And it's like, no, 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 time
Too
out, time
late.
out.
Too late.
Reverse. Yeah.
That's well, and for those who follow those things, you've seen the Superman films. The inverse of Superman is a film called Brightburn. If you haven't seen it,
I haven't seen that, but yeah, that's I've heard similar things. Yeah.
yeah, it's basically you'd have to see it, but it's the opposite of Superman. What if
Oh,
Superman landed with a different family? Uh,
yeah. Yep.
um, well, we're getting close to time. This is a fascinating film, and I'm going to say not an easy watch.
I thought it was interesting. The first time I watched this, which was about a month ago, it did not start with what it started with today. Before the movie started today, when I watched it, there
Hmm.
was a statement from the producers with a website about how you can get involved with being proactive on this issue. And so I thought
Oh,
it was fascinating that they're upfronting this idea of this is how you can share your voice. Because one of the themes of this movie is if this is going to be controlled, the public is going to have to put pressure on the leadership of the government and also the leadership of these executives
tech
to do
companies,
this
right?
better.
Yeah, yeah, the tech companies. It was interesting that they tried to interview like all of these heads of tech companies,
Yeah.
and certain ones didn't show up.
Yep.
You know, Mark Zuckerman, Elon Musk.
Yeah, I guess what also concerns me is the one gentleman who's clearly does a lot of ethical stuff around this. talks about, I've talked to people in all of these companies, and they all say, we need the public to get involved and we need the public to put pressure on us to do things differently. And I'm like, wait,
Wait, if you know
you can
that,
do things differently.
why don't you just do it differently?
Yes. Yep.
You're right. I'm not sure that we're going to survive this.
Yes. Oh,
Right. So, friends, this is, I mean, if you want to genuinely be scared about our future, this is probably a good film to watch.
yeah.
Um, but it's definitely interesting, and I don't think it's something we can ignore.
No, it's definitely
You
not.
know, along with the director, the producer of the film, I would say it's not something that we can ignore.
I think one of the most powerful statements in the movie was someone goes, even if this is a bust, even if this isn't something that can happen, we're putting so much of the economy into it. We're putting so much of the environmental resources into it that
Right.
even if it bursts, it's going to have huge impacts on people, on jobs, on the environment.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't seem like there's a good ending to it. Um, but what we do have, prayer, friends. We got prayer. All right. So,
Get your friends
um,
to church.
get, what they should have said in the film, go to church. Now, honestly, the folks that are watching this, they probably already do, but
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
um, so for next week,
Yeah.
I didn't really have anything that, was burning on my conscience
Okay.
for next week. But I did mention one that might be worth watching, just since we're
Yeah.
into this kind of
Yeah.
discussion.
Okay.
Let me see if it's available on where is it available? Oh, it's on Prime Video. Okay. So why don't we watch Brightburn?
Okay.
Which is it's sort of an alternative, friends, if you haven't seen, it's sort of an alternative Superman kind of film. Um, and I have seen it before, but it's been a little while. So it came out in 2019.
Okay.
So we'll take a look at Brightburn for next week, friends. Until next Friday, um, turn off Chat GPT.
Touch grass.
Keep on finding God in the dark. We'll see you all next week. Take care and God bless.
But
Thanks again for watching the Finding God in the Dark podcast, friends. If you've made it here all the way to the end of the video, then obviously you find something that we're doing to be educational or informative, something valuable in this podcast. So we want to invite you to go ahead and share this with your friends. Hit the like button. Follow us for more of this. We publish every week at 10 a.m. on Friday mornings on YouTube. Shortly thereafter, you'll find us somewhere on Facebook. Until next Friday, keep on finding God in the dark. Thanks for watching. Bye now.